I don't know. I think you can have panic attacks and you can have trouble with, mental illness and all of that, and that's totally valid. But then you're turning around and you're doing malicious things and you're like acting in really cruel ways rather than giving excuses. And I hope that you can do that, and I hope that you can move forward and move on.
I am here for Bliss standing by her man and giving a PhD level read to Irina, because Irina and Micah tried to play with the guys, and I think Bliss stepped in because she realized that it wouldn't look great if Paul and Zack kept going back and forth with Irina and Micah. I think this is why every time Zack tried to say something and the girls were trying to turn it against him, this is why she stepped in as a woman, because otherwise people would have said, oh, how dare this guy's bully a woman and say whatever. So when she spoke up, the girls immediately sort of backed down because they knew they couldn't hide behind anything or any fake tears. Nothing would have saved them. But anyway, I digress. Hey there, thanks for stopping by. I'm so sorry about the late upload. Life has been lifing. Anyway, in this episode I'll be reviewing Love is Blind, season 4, episode 13, the reunion. Please leave a like and a comment, and don't forget to subscribe. I'm trying to get to 1,000 subs. So the episode starts with the introductions. Everybody is there. They look amazing. There's 3 married couples, plus there's Marshall, Paul, and Micah. And then it's revealed that Jackie couldn't come, so she and Josh will be interviewed by Vanessa later, and also Irina is there. And so obviously they have to start with Tiffany and Brett because they were they were the ones with the smoothest storyline. So I think they wanted to get that out of the way. But obviously they had to bring up the issue of Tiffany falling asleep in the pods. And this is the thing with Kinetic. They will play that. They will play that until for forever. As long as that show is still running, they will play it. I've seen it on Marriage at First Sight. Some people are married, they've got children, and still their lowest points on the show are being played. So it was nice to see that Tiffany made light of it. But the way it was introduced, it was set up as though they were going to show a clip of Brett and Tiffany after their wedding, going to the honeymoon suite, to the bridal suite. But then and Tiffany was panicking, and then they showed the clip of her sleeping in the pods, and so I think she was quite relieved once the clip stopped, because I think she kept waiting for it to show that, and Vanessa eventually said, I was just joking. But I thought it was a bit, I don't want to say it's inappropriate, but I think it was a bit insensitive, given the fact that this is a sensitive subject, because Tiffany is now a married woman. She's has Brett's family to think of. She has her own family to think of, and things like that. Yes, in the moment she was very excited and she blurted out something that maybe she's now regretting. But at the same time, I don't want to blame Vanessa, because obviously the producers have sat down with her and told her what questions to ask. So obviously this would have been one of the things that she was told to speak about, because there's no way they were going to ignore it, given the fact that they highlighted it to the viewers. But then I was surprised because Brett was talking about how he drove, he lived in Portland and he had to drive to Seattle and then go back to Portland. And so he drove 3 hours either way. And he was talking about the pictures that he took for Tiffany when she was very stressed about the wedding. And then suddenly it transitioned to Kwame and Chelsea and talking about their photo shoot. And I understand the link, but I wish they had given it time. I was happy that they got to speak about how Marshall dated Tiffany, realized that no, he wasn't the guy for her, and told Brett, and then encouraged them to sort of start dating. And so he was happy with the outcome. And it seems, personally, this is my issue in the sense that Tiffany and Brett, we can't blame them that the story was smooth, but at the same time, there was no sort of development. It's sort of like with Brennan and Alexa, we were not shown the development of these relationships. People are just shown, oh, they fell in love, and they've been okay until wedding day, which I don't think is right. People's journeys need to be shown so that the fans understand what's going on. It doesn't necessarily have to be anything toxic. It's just the journey from when they met, how they fell in love, and how they sort of progressed in the outside world. I know a lot of things happened with Tiffany and Brett. They were talking. Obviously, they had the incident where she fell asleep and she brought the little shoe and then he proposed and stuff. But because they only was shown up until episode 2 and their proposal, I think this is why people like myself sort of struggle to quite understand their connection. I know they're in love. I know they have a great connection. Don't get me wrong, but I wish we'd seen more of their journey in the pods before getting to proposal day. Oh my God, I didn't expect Chelsea to say she had gone, shopping for the lingerie that they wore for the photo shoot with her mum. I think everybody was taken aback because they didn't expect her to say that. And Kwame was saying he's actually wearing the boxes that she bought him for the photo shoot. Just like, oh, okay. And then I wish they'd shown us the Micah conversation during the season with Chelsea, because apparently Chelsea and Micah had a conversation once they got back, because Micah tried to have a conversation with Chelsea in Mexico and it started raining. So when they came back, I think they tried to do a redo of the conversation. And so Micah was saying that, she was about to break up with Kwame, and apparently Kwame was busy telling Chelsea that he was about to break up with Micah before they broke up. And so the conversation was in regards to the incident, how it happened, and how Chelsea felt about it. Chelsea is a bigger woman than most, because she said, she's fine, but she didn't like the how it played out. She felt it was disrespectful to her. And on his part, Kwame owned up and apologized for his behavior. He apologized to his wife, his fans, his in-laws, because he felt that didn't represent him in the light that he wanted to be represented in, and he felt he loved his wife very much, and it wasn't fair on her for him to behave in that manner. And so I am happy that they were able to address that. I'm happy. Although Micah, every time she was being asked, she sort of said, "Oh, because she was asked, you made a smirky face when you're told that Kwame was about to break up with you, and suddenly um did you not believe what you're being told by Chelsea, that Kwame was about to break up with you?" She said, "Oh well, it doesn't matter because look at them, they're married now." And it's like, I wrote this on my tweet before, that Micah and Irina thought they were the shit. They thought, these guys are nothing and they can play with the guys. They can pick and choose who they want, and the guys will just follow behind them and wait for them to make their minds up. And so the idea that these guys were just playing them as much as they thought they were playing the guys is shocking to them, and I think it bruises their egos. That's why they sort of have their backs up and start saying a lot of unnecessary things. I like the fact that Kwame and Chelsea made it clear that they have moved on. Whatever happened with Micah happened in Mexico, happened over a year ago. They're in a different space and they are happy as a couple. And obviously, they addressed the issue of Kwame's mom. And it seems Chelsea was able to meet with Kwame's mom at his sister's house. And they seem to have got along during that visit. I think it's going to take time. I think it's going to take time, but I think the mother will fall in love with Chelsea. Chelsea seems very nice and she seems very caring. So I hope that relationship grows, and I hope the mother is able to forgive her son, and they're able to start afresh with her new daughter-in-law and see how things go. I love the Zack and Bliss's dance, and it's sweet. It's really touching. I think it was a very emotional moment. And yes, the other couples were shown dancing, but it wasn't as emotional as Zack and Bliss, because this is something they talked about in the pod, something they sort of were planning, and to see it come to fruition was amazing. Whereas I know they did show Brett and Tiffany dancing to it, they showed Chelsea and Kwame dancing to it, but it didn't sort of carry the same weight as it did um with Bliss and Zack. And I like the fact that Zack actually was able to express why he was worried and why he was concerned, because he used this song to reference his concerns as to why he was concerned about proposing to Bliss. Because as much as he liked her, he spoke about the fact that he was worried that what if he proposed to her and then on wedding day it was a no. And so this song sort of spoke to that sort of path, and how because he was worried about failing, he went for the easy option, which we all know was Irina. I think they are doing amazing. Apparently, Bliss's dad is now best friends with Zack. Oh my God, I really loved the conversation about Bliss's dad. I think Bliss was a bit worried. I don't know what she was worried about. I don't think she was worried, but I think she felt the need to explain her dad. And I have to give it to Zach that he gave her that opportunity to speak, because that's her dad. And she spoke about how her dad loves her and supports her and wants the best for her. And the fact that the dad and Zach are now very good friends, and is actually paying for them to go on a honeymoon, which I really loved. And Zach, on his part, spoke about how amazing it was that all their family members dropped everything they were doing and that last notice came to attend their wedding for them. And so he says, although he was afraid about her family sort of accepting him, Bliss's dad, as he walked Bliss up the aisle, sort of gave him a signal, which showed him that, he was everything was going to be okay. I think it was sort of his seal of approval. Because even when the doors opened, when they were getting married, the dad, after saying, you're the prize, you're this, he then said to Bliss, smile. Smile. Even though he had been telling her things that everyone was worried would sort of turn her away from Zack. I remember hearing him clearly say to Bliss, smile, smile. Sort of like, there's no way he would be saying that if he wasn't happy for his daughter. So he wanted his daughter to sort of put her best foot forward and not regret anything, or, get married to this man and then look back and see how miserable she was. So I truly believe that the dad gave his approval, as Zack said, that, he gave me this nod that told me that everything is going to be okay. So I'm so happy about that. And then we got, so then they show the clip of Micah and Irina and how they behaved in the pods and how bad they were towards the other girls. And you could see that the wives were very uncomfortable because the wives are friends with some of the pod squad. They're friends with Amber and company and Jackie. And so for them to see Irina and Micah sort of laughing at that, you could see on their faces that they were not happy at all. They were not happy at all. And so when Irina is asked, what do you have to say for yourself? Instead of apologizing to all the ladies, I would like to sincerely apologize to all the ladies on the stage. I want to apologize to my fellow, contestants that I was with in the pods. I know I've apologized privately, but I want to take ownership and apologize to everybody else and let you know that I am working on myself. And so no, she decided to play victim and sort of try to I am learning about myself. I am working on myself. And also Zack. And it's like, what has Zack got to do with it? For Irina to try and throw Zack under the bus just because she's been asked that, why did you still insist on going to Mexico? Why did you not stay? And she says, I was told, let's go to Mexico and we'll speak to Zack there. And it's like, I wasn't comfortable to speak to Zack. He's very good with his words. He's a lawyer. He's this, that, and the other. So you were not comfortable to speak to him, but you were comfortable to accept his proposal, even though you knew he was good with his words and he was a lawyer. I said this before, and I'll say this again. Micah and Irina thought Paul and Zack, being nerds, would eat up anything they put in their face, and they would be bound to these girls, and they would dictate the pace of their relationship. So Micah and Irina would dictate the pace of their relationship, and they didn't anticipate that these guys are very smart and these guys are not going to put up with any nonsense. And so Bliss was asked, Panic, how do you feel about what Irina is saying? And she said, I don't get it. For her to say she's, I'm not going to keep talking about this. I like that she didn't want to keep hammering on something that was old, because this took quite a chunk of the interview. And she said, well, I'm not going to keep talking about this because I don't care. But because we've moved on. But the fact that she's trying to use mental health problems as an excuse for her behavior doesn't make sense. You can't say you've got you've got panic attacks, you've got a history of mental health disorders, and yet you're being malicious to other people. That doesn't make sense. You can't use your mental health to sort of to hide your bad behavior. And I didn't get it. I don't even know why you wasted time with Irina. I know it was good because they were Zack and Bliss were able to sort of lay it out on the table, but I don't think it was necessary. I felt sorry. And Zack is very in tune with his wife, because at one point Bliss was breaking down and he immediately put his arm around her shoulders, because you could tell, he knew she was about to cry. The same thing happened with Zack when he was becoming emotional over this Irina issue. Bliss immediately started sort of rubbing his leg to sort of try and comfort him, which I thought, oh my God, these people, I really love them. And I'm really happy that they are very happy in love. Micah forgot she was crying and her mask fell for a bit, because Zack said the truth. And he said, he had heard rumors that Micah wasn't really that keen to marry Paul. She was engaged to him, but the possibility that she would marry him was unlikely. And he said some of the ladies had told him, and Tiffany and Chelsea, their faces, I have a feeling they said something. I have a feeling they said something. They're both very close with Bliss. I don't think Bliss would have told. Well, Bliss and Zack talk about everything, so she might have told her husband, but somebody must have said something because she was once she was confronted with the fact that she wasn't going to marry Paul. She's making Paul the bad guy, but she wasn't going to marry Paul. She needs to own up to that fact. She can't keep saying Paul hurt her, as though she didn't have a part to play in this relationship. That's when Vanessa asked, okay, so who are the women that told you? And Tiffany and Chelsea quickly said, no, it wasn't us. And then turns out Irina is the one who brought the gossip back. So Irina was very close friends with, you know, with Micah. So I can't believe that she's the one who told Zach, because I remember when they were talking um after they broke up in Mexico, Irina sort of talking about her relationship with Paul and how she felt about Paul. And even when they came back and Micah confronted Irina to say, I heard you're flirting with Paul. Micah, Irina said to Micah, well, if I was still interested in Paul, I would ask you to arrange a meeting. And it's like, if your friend is going to marry that man, why is she arranging for a meeting between you and her fiance to discuss a possible dating? This is why I say that. Micah's playing victim, but she really isn't the victim. She's just managed to somehow fly under the radar and hold on to the fact that Paul said she didn't have a nurturing quality. And because of that, she's decided to make him the bad guy. And sadly, Vanessa has fed onto that. I understand it's a double-edged sword in the sense that if she had tried to sort of be dismissive and say, no, Paul didn't mean any harm, then some fans would have come and say, how dare Vanessa be insensitive to people that struggle, with having children and stuff. If she didn't say anything, she was going to be criticized. So it was a double-edged sword. There was no way she was going to win in that. So I get people being upset, but I don't think Vanessa was going to win either way. If she had gone in hard on Micah, people would have come on after her. At the moment, she didn't go hard enough after Micah. People are still coming after her, so she wasn't going to win anyway. I don't even know why we saw the clip about Josh and Jackie's dating in the pods. I don't know whether that was an agreement that was reached between Jackie and the producers. That way she wouldn't release whatever nonsense she wanted to release, because it didn't make sense. Nothing was really addressed about the rumors that Jackie was putting online, because at the end of the day, all Jackie did was sort of try to revamp her character, sort of try and address issues in regards to people saying she dated Josh while she was still with Marshall, which didn't make sense. The allegations that they made about the ring that Marshall was going to propose to somebody else still didn't make sense. I said this in one of my reviews. Everybody saw Bliss and Zack make things work, and they decided to give second chances to other people, not realizing that their connections were not as strong as other people. And so it doesn't make sense to me. She tried to justify, the slurs that she was using about Marshall, and I don't even know why we needed to see that. I'm not going to talk about that. I think to me it didn't make any sense, and I don't know why we actually watched that bit. I personally don't think this interview was fair in the sense that I don't get why Marshall was asked questions after the fact. So after Josh and Jackie did their interview, and then he was asked questions after the fact, because he also had questions of his own, and for them to expect Marshall to address everything that Jackie and Josh said and not get them to respond to his own questions didn't make sense. This is why I am happy that he spoke up for himself, and he said he felt slighted not only once but twice, in the fact that the first time was that they didn't turn up. Okay, she broke off the engagement and she went off with Josh. They didn't turn up for this reunion, and it doesn't make sense. I know Vanessa was trying to sort of address the things that they brought up, but if she was going to address whatever they brought up, they should have asked Marshall for his own questions first before they interviewed Jackie and Josh, to make it make sense. Because why should Jackie and Josh get closure and Marshall not get closure? As far as I'm concerned, Marshall didn't get closure. I think he deserved the right, if nothing else. They should have put a time delay whereby Marshall would get to ask whatever he wanted to ask, and if Jackie said anything that was insensitive, they could always blip it out. The fact that a big deal was made about him saying something about her jawline when she made something that sort of implied the same thing about Marshall doesn't make sense. And she was online busy saying all these derogatory terms about Marshall. I didn't like that bit. I didn't like that bit. And yes, they were fighting. They were not getting along. Marshall did try. He was actually emotionally mature for his age. He's only 26. He was emotionally mature for his age, given some of the things that they went through in Mexico when she broke down, and then in the apartment when his sister came. I wish, though, Brett had spoken up for Marshall when Vanessa kept going in on Marshall. I wish Brett had spoken up the same way that Zach spoke up for Paul, to sort of get Vanessa to take a step back. And if you look at the video, you can actually see that Vanessa has an earbud. So someone was feeding her information, or someone was feeding her questions to ask. And so for the viewers to say Vanessa's at fault, it doesn't make sense when you can see that she's busy being fed information of what to say. Maybe they were telling her which questions to ask, and yet pretending that all this is all coming out of her own head when she is just doing what she's being told to do. Oh, it was nice to see the couple's at-home videos. Obviously, with Zach, the producers made Zach sing. They made him sing so that they could mock him. I think it was bad, but anyway, it was nice to see that Tiffany and Brett have moved in to Brett's place. They seem to be enjoying themselves. Obviously, Brett had to record Tiffany asleep. I don't know why. They need to allow the young lady to sleep if she's tired. And also, we got to see Chelsea's place. One of the videos where they're sitting at this sort of breakfast bar, Bliss and Zack, they'd gone to visit Chelsea and Kwame, because you can see in the background, you can see Chelsea's two couches, or whatever you call them, the pink ones. So they were at their house. We really didn't get to see much of Zack and Bliss's house. I think they did this on purpose. Maybe they just didn't want the idea of people having to see their personal space, so they were private about that. And I have to give them respect for that, because at the end of the day, Zach works with a lot of people. Some are good, some are bad. You never know who might decide to look for his place and come and break into his house because they've seen something on TV. So I have to give them credit for not showing that and choosing to be very selective of what they showed about their home. I liked that. They seem to have traveled as well. I think Bliss and Chelsea are very close, and I think they might be living very close to Kwame and Chelsea, maybe not in the same building. So this is why they sort of traveled, I think, more together, because um, Tiffany and Brett are in Portland, whereas the other two couples are in Seattle. So it was nice to see also that they got to spend time together, all three couples. I am happy. I think, yes, there are questions that could have been asked, but were not asked. But do I think anyone could have done better? I don't think so. I think the producers have a tight rein of what they want addressed and how they want it addressed. And regardless of how we as viewers feel Vanessa did, even if they bring somebody else, the problem is still going to be the same, because the same producers are going to be running the show. She's got an earbud in her ear, someone is feeding her the questions, and she is only doing as they say she should do. And I don't think they would allow her free reign to just ask whatever question she felt like asking. And so, I don't know, we'll see. I'm happy that Kwame got to address the Alex issue, because people were saying, oh, he doesn't like his blackness, that's why he doesn't want to go by the name Kwame. And it's like, I know of people who were born, for example, who are descendants. For example, oh, they are of African descent. They come from countries whereby, for example, they were British colonies, and they were expected, even if you had an African name, at some point before independence, they were expected to have an English name, because the what Europeans didn't want to struggle to pronounce the African name. So it was an expectation that when you go to get your birth certificate, you'd have to have not only your African name, but your English name you'd have to have an English name. And when you were registered on the birth certificate, your English name went first, because this is the name you're going to be known by. I know things might have changed with time, whereby people are free to name their children whatever they want to name them. But at that time, that was it. So I don't get why people were so, oh, he doesn't want to be known as a black person. He doesn't want to own his blackness. This is why he wants to go as Alex. It wasn't a random experiment. SK last year went as SK. The only way you'd know he was a black person was because of his accent, and you think, but he must be from some other place that's not America, because yes, he's got a tinge of American accent, but it's not 100%. It's not authentically American accent. You could tell he was African, or he was from somewhere else outside of America. That's the impression that I got. Anyway, I don't know. We'll. I think a lot of things were addressed that needed to be addressed. Yes, there were things that needed to be addressed that shouldn't have been addressed, but hey, it is what it is. This is what happens when you are having producers sort of run a show. They, even if Vanessa and Nick are executive producers, they're not just going to be allowed to run wild and just ask whatever they want, because even if they ask a question, somebody's going to be in their ear sort of correcting them and telling them what to ask. And this issue of babies that everyone is upset about, if you watch reality TV, if you watch Married at First Sight, you will know that the viewers are always asking the participants, when are you having a baby? When are you having a baby? This is not something new. It's only new to people that might not watch reality TV, or people that might not have focused on it before. But anyway, I digress. I don't know. I've really enjoyed it. I'm so sorry about the late upload, but hey, it is what it is. Thanks, guys. Please don't forget to subscribe and leave a comment and a like. Bye, everyone.